I have tried to make this quite broadly applicable because the sorts of use cases I'm thinking of are, for example, I see entrepreneurs who are so subsumed in their business and their startup that they have done nothing to build themselves as a brand and a personality alongside that. And that's a mistake, because as a founder, as a member of a startup team, you can do a great deal for your startup by actually building your personal brand alongside it. I also observe that there are a lot of people who are working in corporate jobs who let their personal brand be subsumed by their role and their company and the business and the brand that they work for, and do not build their personal brand separately. And trust me, that is a mistake when you decide you want to leave that company and find a better job. Those are the sorts of contexts in which I've put together this session. I'm going to talk for about 20 to 25 minutes, and I should warn you that I'm going to give you an entirely subjective perspective on how to build your personal brand. You are totally free to disagree with everything I say. We can take it outside later. But I'm just going to tell you, the kind of thing that I think makes sense. And then I want to open it up to all of you. I mean, absolutely ask me questions. But also, I would love anybody who wants to kind of share with all of us any questions or challenges or situations or scenarios, and then we can all workshop how we build our personal brands most effectively together. It is important to have a conscious sense of your personal brand and how you're building it, because it's a very important part of how you promote yourself. And quite frankly, if you don't promote yourself, who else will? And I have to have this conversation a lot, especially with women, who talk about self-promotion like it's a dirty word, and it's absolutely not. It's a fundamental part, actually, not only of doing business, but also of doing life. The best starting point for building your personal brand is to ask yourself, what's your default throwaway descriptor? Now, we all have a default throwaway descriptor. Your default throwaway descriptor is what happens when somewhere, at a conference, at a dinner, at a drinks gathering, two people meet and talk, and one of them knows you and the other person doesn't. And so the person who knows you goes, blah, 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 your name, and the other person goes, oh, so-and-so, who's that? And the first person goes, oh, blah, blah. Your default throwaway descriptor is how somebody sums you up very quickly when you are not in the room. We all have a personal default throwaway descriptor, and obviously, as you can sense, it's a jolly good idea to actively set out to make that default throwaway descriptor what you would like it to be. And by the way, every business also needs a default throwaway descriptor, because when you craft that for your business, you are giving your clients, your business partners, what they need to say when they go, oh my God, let's get blah on the phone because they do blah. It's how they sum up what your business does for them very, very quickly when you are not there to shape it. I recommend that each one of you, if you do not already know what your default throwaway descriptor is, set out to craft one. And it's enormously useful in many different ways. So it's obviously a great way to get yourself known for whatever it is that you want to be known for. But I'm also a great believer in using your default throwaway descriptor to be your own filter. Those of you who maybe follow me on social media will be aware that my Twitter bio, LinkedIn bio, my personal default throwaway descriptor is to do with the fact that in my business, speaking, consultancy, and entrepreneurial work, I am all about disruption, innovation, being transformative, being groundbreaking. I'm not about the status quo. And so I sum myself up as, I like to blow shit up. I am the Michael Bay of business. Now, I do that entirely deliberately. That is not a bit of whimsy, a bit of creativity, a bit of fun. I characterize what I do in that way because when I do that, it attracts to me the people who want what I do, and it repels the ones who don't. And I sure as hell want to repel the ones who don't because they're a waste of time, effort, and money. So when you identify how you are going to sum yourself up, you can use that as your filter. For clients, for partnerships, it will draw to you the people who go, wow, I want some of that. And it will keep away the people who don't. And you want to keep away the people who don't. Now, show of hands, please. How many of you in this gathering own yourownname.com, URL-wise? Okay, that's really good. It's still not good enough because everybody should. And the reason for that is the first thing that anybody does today when they meet you in either a personal or professional context is they Google you. And so from the point of view of personal brand building, you want to make damn sure you Google in the right kind of way, and you want to be sure that you do not Google in the wrong kind of way. And owning yourownname.com is a very easy way to ensure that. And by the way, by the URL, you don't have to do a huge amount with it. You can use something like Wix or Squarespace to put up a very basic site. You can have just a splash page, but the point is that you want to ensure that yourownname.com is result number one on page number one of Google when anybody Googles you, because that tells people how to think about you before Google does it for you. There are circumstances where this is not as necessary. If you're lucky enough to have your own Wikipedia page, I mean, that will work as result number one. But there are things that often are your result number one that do not work as well. So I observe that a lot of people that I Google, quite often result number one is their LinkedIn profile. And that's not good because LinkedIn only defines you in the context of the job you are currently doing. And you want to be defined in the context of what you've decided is your personal throwaway default descriptor. That is where you tell people, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is what I'm all about, this is what you can pay me to do, this is what you can hire me to do. What you do is, by the URL, put whatever you want up on it, and then you bring it up the Google rankings by, and this is also part of personal brand building, on community hubs for whatever you're interested in, on pages for whatever you're doing, make a point of leaving incisive, insightful, thoughtful, very impressive comments and link back from them to your personal brand URL. Because the more people who check you out from quality content, the more your personal URL will be driven up in the Google rankings, and it will become result one on page one. Business cards are actually really important, but not necessarily in the way that you think. I'm a huge fan of business cards. And I'm a huge fan of business cards because what they do in an IRL encounter context to build your personal brand. Yes, I know for the more high-tech amongst us, it's really easy and great to use different apps to, airdrop stuff. But actually, when you give somebody a small IRL object, that's a huge opportunity to brand yourself creatively in a really interesting way. So I'm going to show you my business card. So this is my Make Love Not Porn business card. And what it says is, you should be on makelovenotporn.tv, and it's designed so that you can frame the person you're talking to and make that point to them. Because obviously, we would love all of you to become Make Love Not Porn stars. At the very least, to visit makelovenotporn.com and subscribe. But the point is that every time I bring this business card out and hand it over, it creates a moment and it sparks a conversation. And that's what you want to ask yourself. Does your business card start a conversation? First of all, it makes an impression. And that is very useful if you are at a conference, at a business networking event, at a party where there are lots of people meeting each other, lots of business cards being exchanged. You want to be the one who had that card, which quite often people tell me, they keep this on their desks, they hang on to it. But you especially want to be the person who, when you hand over your business card, the person you're talking to goes, ooh, what's all that about? Tell me more. They want to know more. And, I've encountered some people who've done amazingly creative things with their business cards. I met a woman last year who had a venture to do with, I can't remember exactly what it was to do with growing things. And her business card was literally a small seed packet. Printed on the packet were, her details, her contact details, but it contained the seeds for the venture that she had started. So you can do really fun things, no matter what your business is, and you can get them done and executed relatively cheaply. So have a think about what statement your business card makes about you in an IRL context that actually builds your personal brand. So, social media. Today, obviously, a very key part of building your personal brand, including, by the way, taking the decision not to be on social media at all. So, I talk to some people who don't want to have anything to do with social media and aren't on any of it, and actually that is a personal branding approach as much as any other. I have to be honest, I'm a fan of social media. I think you can achieve a great many things with it. I'm going to come on to that in a moment. But if you decide that you are somebody whose personal brand is built on not having a presence on social media, that's as legitimate an approach as anything else. I think the key thing really is you don't have to be on everything and everywhere. Pick your channel for actually even more than what you want to achieve, where you feel most comfortable expressing yourself. So, to the shock and horror, undoubtedly, of much of the audience, I am not on Instagram. Shock, horror. But the reason I'm not on Instagram is I know my own strengths and weaknesses. I am a verbal and not a visual person. I take shit photos. So I like Twitter, and I like Facebook, and I also like LinkedIn, but I don't do Instagram. So find the channel that's right for you, and then consciously think about it in terms of how you want to use it to put yourself out into the world as your personal brand, standing for what you want it to stand for. Separate to all the things anybody who loves social media would tell you about, creating awareness, building a following, bringing a community around you. What social media can be really useful for is the opposite of what a lot of people think it's all about. I recommend social media not for crafting some incredibly carefully put together superficial impression of you that you want people to take away with them. Actually, social media, in my view, is most powerful, and I would encourage you to use it in this way, when you use it to say what you think. And I mean really. Say what you really think. And the reason I say that is because a key part of building your personal brand is having your own point of view, of having your perspective and your insights, and putting those out into the world so that you get known for that point of view. There are people who use social media to retweet other people, to share things. I strongly recommend using it to put the things that you care about out into the world, whether those are things to do with the venture you're building or things to do with the causes that you're passionate about. But also, I want to say this especially to women. I want you to say what you think on social media. And men in the audience, I apologize for what I'm about to say next, okay, but I'm sure you will acknowledge it's true. In my own Twitter timeline, and I follow a 50-50 gender split. I follow a diverse group of people, and you can actually monitor that, by the way. There are an awful lot of white men thinking that the world is absolutely dying to hear every single thing they want to say. So in my own industry, advertising, there is a long stream of white guys who are strategists, creatives, media guys going blah, 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 blah. This is what I think, blah, blah, blah. And the net result of that is that they are seen as the thought leaders and the influencers and the opinion makers in our industry. So another reason I'm telling you to say what you think on social media is because that is how you become known as an authority and an expert on your particular area of passion, of expertise, and that is how you get people from the media contacting you and asking to interview you about those points of view. And you want that to happen to build your personal brand. You want to put those ideas out into the world. You want to be the person the media calls up about that particular issue, that particular passion of yours, the sector that your startup operates in. When you say what you think, you are articulating what makes you uniquely you. Because nobody else thinks like you. Nobody else has the same ideas and the same perspectives. Put those out there, and that also will draw, community to you, other people who like what you're saying, want to follow you and want to engage with you. It'll draw reporters who are looking for different points of view. I get, both I and Make Love Not Porn get a lot of media coverage. I am interviewed a lot, to the extent that people regularly say to me, God, Cindy, who's your PR agency? They're amazing. Can you recommend them? I want to know who they are. I want to work with them. I've never had a PR agency in my life. I've never done one single bit of PR or media outreach on my own behalf or my startups. It's all come to me and it's all come to us. And, in this context, I want to quote my old boss, John Hegarty's great mantra. John was very prone to saying, do interesting things and interesting things will happen to you. Put interesting things out there and interesting things will happen to you. So say what you think. And also do that in writing. So again, to build your personal brand and to have it stand for the things you want it to stand for, absolutely seize any opportunity you can to write those points of view at more length than social media allows. I mean, obviously, places like Medium are a good place to do that, but actively try and find places in the media where you can write your opinions and they welcome those pieces. And by the way, again, I'm going to say I particularly want women to do this because, again, public discourse is dominated by men. And so for women who may not be aware of this, check out the opedproject.org. This is a nonprofit dedicated to enabling women's voices to be heard in the media in every possible capacity. So women, go there and find out how you can start writing op-eds that will be read by a lot of people that can move the needle in the ways that you want to move it. Another aspect of that, putting your ideas out into the world, putting your personal brand out into the world, is speaking. So again, find opportunities to speak and decide in the first instance what you think the best stages are for you and your message, and then ask to speak there. Every single conference, every single event is desperate for speakers. Every single conference has an application process. Apply, apply, apply. And find places to give talks that you want to give to the kind of audiences that you want to get to. In this context, there is an approach I recommend to everybody because it's a very good way of shortcutting the personal branding process in what is always a very impressive way, and that is to give a TEDx talk. So there are 15 million TEDx's. If you go to the TEDx section on TED.com, you will find all of them. Find the TEDx's near you. There will be a whole bunch of them, in different places with different themes. And again, they happen every year. They are looking for speakers. Apply to give a TEDx talk. And the reason for that is, first of all, every TEDx puts its talks online. And so a great email signature is your TEDx talk. It has the imprint of the TED brand, which always impresses people. It's your point of view in a very compelling way because it has to be a TEDx talk. It's a quick way for people to watch and see what you're all about, what you stand for. But also, TED reviews all the TEDx talks, and when they find one that's particularly compelling, they will put it on their homepage, whereupon you will get a ton of traffic and views, and they will also invite the most compelling TEDx speakers to speak at TED. So that's a really great personal branding direction to take. Now, this is an aspect of personal branding that you might not think about as consciously, but it's a very important one. People value you at the value you are seen to put on yourself. As much a part of your personal brand as anything else is what you charge to access your personal brand. And I mean that, again, in every respect. Whether it's your salary, whether it's the deals you do, whether it's what you charge people for your business, what you charge clients for your agency. Part of your personal brand is representing the value that brand brings to the table, and so for God's sake, do not undervalue yourselves. And I'm happy to say that I can help with this, because last year for Equal Pay Day, the digital agency RGA turned me into a chatbot, specifically for women, by the way, although men, I do recommend you engage with CindyBot because you'll be entertained by what she says when you identify yourself as a man. But ladies, if you go to Facebook, CindyBot lives on Facebook Messenger. Search Ask Cindy Gallop on Facebook, message me from that page, and I have lots of great advice for you, including the fact that whether it's a pay negotiation, whether it's a job interview, or whether it's a deal, the amount you ask for is always the highest amount you can say out loud without actually bursting out laughing. And in the context of this aspect of personal brand, because I'm going to assume, talking to my fellow NeueHouse community members and a lot of you, I support myself as a consultant and a public speaker, so I feel this very strongly. The two happiest words in any freelancer or contractor's day-to-day existence are these: payment upfront. So, and the reason I make that point, guys, is because part of your personal brand is also what you refuse to put up with. Okay? Get paid upfront. Get at least 50% payment up front, make that part of how you project your value, and trust me, that absolutely builds up your brand as an enormously valuable one as well. And, everything I'm talking about really boils down to, at the end of the day, your personal brand is all about living and projecting your values. If you've never done this exercise, look into yourself and identify what you believe in, what you stand for, what you value, what your attitude is, what you're all about, and then live your life and work your work according to those values. Because trust me, that makes life so much easier. Life still throws you all the shit it always will, but you know exactly how to respond to in any given situation in a way that is true to you. So know your values and act on them and project them, because they are your personal brand. Two final points to make before we open this up. So the next one may sound a little odd, but again, subjective. I happen to think this is a very important part of your personal brand. Say your age. I have been exhorting people to do this, especially women, for years. And the reason is, I am all about challenging ageism, as a number of you will know. And my philosophy on this is the opposite of what you normally hear combating ageism, which is age is just a number. It's not. Your age is a very special number, because you are the sum total of all of your experiences and life learnings to date, and your age is the sum total of that value. Your age is what makes you you. Your age is what makes you uniquely valuable. So say your age and be loud and proud about it, because that is a fundamental part of your personal brand. And by the way, say your age no matter how young you are, as much as no matter how old you are, because you can be dismissed for being too young as much as you can be dismissed for being too old. Begin saying your age loud and proud as early as possible, and carry on doing it all through your life and your career, because it's a fundamental part of what makes you you. In that context, I was delighted. Earlier this year, AARP reached out to me and asked me to partner with them on their Disrupt Aging program. They said I embody Disrupt Aging, which was very flattering to hear. And I highlight that because I'm going to be doing a lot more work with them on this subject, along every point of the age spectrum. One of the things I've done for them to date was I spoke at the Teen Vogue Summit to a youth audience, again, because you can be dismissed for youth as much as age. And so actively think about all of this, guys. Because ageism is so baked into our society, think about every year that you get older, the better life gets. Every year you get older, the better you get. That's a fundamental part of your brand and who you are.